Like, what's up? Yeah. Yeah.
Kane is in the building.
Alright, already the show goes on all night. Till the morning we dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they would see the sun? Just remember when you come to the show. What's up? Alright, already the show goes on all night. Till the morning we dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they would see the sun? Just remember when you come to the show goes on.
Have you ever had the feeling that you was being had? Don't that shit that make you mad? They treat you like a slave, put chains all on your soul and put whips up on your back. They be lying through they teeth, hope you slip up off your path. I don't switch up, I just laugh, put my kicks up on they desk, unaffected by they threats, then get busy on they.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Overseas Famous, talking overseas basketball. Today we have a very special guest joined by Klara Bradshaw. Klara plays overseas basketball, and the one thing that I always find very interesting, and the one thing that I don't think we've really talked to, we've had quite a few guests on, and I don't think we've really talked about dual citizenship, which is a really cool thing that no one really knows what that is overseas. And Klara is a dual citizen born in the Czech Republic, then moved to the United States when she was young, lived in California, Texas, and now is back overseas playing. But Klara, you first off, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today and coming on all the way from Switzerland. This is super cool. We're glad you're
thank you for having me.
This is super cool. I think the one thing I really wanted to hone in on was the dual citizenship, because I think that's so important, and I think that's a topic we haven't really covered on the show, how important being a dual citizen is in order to be an overseas player. You need to you don't count as an import, which there's only a few slots available, so you can play as you're an American, but you're not, and I think that's like a fascinating thing. So you were born in the Czech Republic.
Correct. Yes, I was born there, right in the center of Prague, and then I moved to the U.S. Well, my mom moved us when I was a year and a half old, so just kind of quickly transitioned over to America.
Nice. That's awesome. And you lived in California.
Yes.
So, and I always say, you grow up, those are like the best, because I always said, I lived in New Zealand when I played in New Zealand for a long time, and I was like, I want a child to be born in New Zealand, because I think it's super cool, because they do like the haka and stuff before the games. And I was like, I want a boy to be born and to do the haka. Like, that's all I cared about. It didn't work out that way. Don't have any boys, but it was something that I really wanted, because that dual citizenship allows them to play for that national team. So you play for the Czech Republic national team.
Yeah, so I got the opportunity to do that. Like, I did the university under 23. That's when I first got my first taste with that. And they invited me over, and it was kind of just really random. They Facebook messaged me, this guy, and I don't really check Facebook messages that often, but it just happened to at that time. And it was like, hey, we would like to invite you to play in the university games. Do you have a Czech passport? I was like, what is going on? I do, but sure. I mean, I had just gotten it, validated again or updated my passport the last year or so, because I had started playing. And so I was like, yeah, I do. Here's my agent contact. And then I think a month and a half later, I was in Czech Republic. So that's kind of how that started.
That's so cool. And people out there don't realize it's like the freaking holy grail of playing overseas basketball, to get that passport, because I know I play with a lot of guys who are Americans, but they had the passport. So you just influx your team with American players. I played on a team, there was 5 Americans, but really there was only 2 of us that were not actually passported Americans, or that are passported Americans. The other 3 guys were, had dual citizenship. And I tried my best. My grandma, since my dad was, I guess I'm throwing real talk out here. Am I just gonna, throw my family history out there, John? Is this a safe environment?
It's whatever you want it to be, Kev, man.
right,
After some of our shows,
Canada.
I think we've all divulged a little information about ourselves. But hey, there's nothing wrong with a little therapy on a snowy
All right.
afternoon,
All right.
brother. Let's hear it.
All right. So
Plus, we had Jeff on last week, so we're gonna get all the
that's
dirt
true.
anyway.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of personal
We
shit.
got some games coming up next time we have Jeff on, so it's all coming.
All right. So my dad was adopted, and my original parents, or my original grandparents, were from Norway, hence all the Viking shit. But my adopted grandparents, my grandma was from Belgium, like right there. So we couldn't track down all the other stuff because my dad was in an orphanage and stuff. But then we were like, okay, my grandma is Belgian. Like, can we use that? And they're like, no, it's not blood. So we got like screwed. I mean, my dad probably more so than us, but like me and my brother weren't able to get that dual citizenship. And that was something we were hunting. We went through like so many hoops to get it. How hard was it for you to kind of get that passport? I mean, imagine since you were born there, it's like, do you have is your passport Czech, or do you have like an American passport?
So I have two. I have an American passport and a Czech passport. It was so easy. I have no idea. I mean, I have a Czech birth certificate. Like I just walked in the office with my mom, who thankfully spoke better Czech than I did. And they were just like, okay, here, fill out this thing, took a picture. And then within like a month, it was in the mailbox. So I have no idea why it was so simple for me, but I guess because I had the previous documentation, like my birth certificate and then my mom's stuff, whatever. I don't know. They just kind of gave it to me. So there's that.
That's awesome. Being the natural, or not an import, for your current team, how many imports do you guys have on your team besides you, or
We typically have, I played the most in Germany. I just transferred over from Germany to Switzerland, but in Germany we had 3 Americans, and here we have 2, but I'm not sure if that's the limit or if that's just the amount that we have here. But typically you play with 2 or 3 women's leagues. Yeah.
Okay. How excited do you think other players get when they kind of show up? And I know too, like you walk in because you're an American citizen, you walk into a locker room and you're like, I don't know if any of you are American. Like, it's just like a complete, you're just looking and just waiting for people to talk to you. And if they speak broken English, you're like, nope. Oh, hi. So how was that like a nerve-wracking? Do you have like good interactions with teammates who are American who come over and you're like, oh shit, like we're American? Like, is that like, do you have that interaction right off the bat?
Yeah, it's funny because the stereotypes, I can tell as an American, people coming in, they kind of have this, they're kind of wary of the people around them. You're coming into this locker room setting and they look at me, and I'm not like the loudest person in there. So I'm just kind of observing, first day, everyone's feeling each other out. And so they just know my name, or that I have a Czech, like that I'm a Czech player. So they think that I'm Czech. And so then I start talking and they're like, oh, wait, you're not European whatsoever. Like, so it's kind of like the opposite. It takes a couple days or maybe a few minutes, depending on the situation, until people realize like, oh, she's not actually Czech. She just has citizenship.
That is, it's like, I feel like it's like almost like becomes a numbers game. You're just like, and you're just like, wait, what the fuck? So that's like, it's a lot of fun. I thought that was like the coolest when, you start talking and you're like, oh my gosh. And it sounds so stupid, but there's like a sense of home right away when you kind of see that other American. I don't know why, like they're from the complete opposite side of the country, completely different background. You might have way more in common with half the players there, but like that first interaction, you're like, you're American. Like, let's play and hang out and do like video, like you're just become like a fan because
it's a complete bond. It's just a strange bond that happens, and it's like you may not even get along with these people, but I'm just so happy to speak English with you clearly that I'm just going to talk to you regardless.
So let's kind of go into this season that you're currently dealing with, which is the thing that we've talked to a lot of imports and people about. with the COVID and everything that's going on. I know, the men's leagues, it's tough. There's some leagues that are really, fans are really involved. Fans are there, and other leagues, there's no fans. I mean, obviously the NBA, no fans. How are your leagues? How's Germany and then now Switzerland handling the COVID response?
Yeah, so Switzerland's a little more relaxed, but also just the overall level of play here for women is more relaxed. So I think that has to do with it. But in Germany, they were very uptight, as they are about most things in Germany, but they you get tested before every single game, no fans whatsoever other than board members. And then, yeah, just very much COVID protocol. You're not shaking hands, not doing any of that stuff. Especially our team that I was on, we had the COVID protocol guy for the whole league was our physio. So yeah, it was just not happening whatsoever.
That's crazy. I think that's the first time we've actually, I know I talked to guys who I know who play in the NBA, and they're like, we're getting tested like regularly. They're getting tested 3 times a day, so much. So it's crazy because this is the first time when you said that was the first time that the thought even crossed my mind of how often you guys get tested. So you guys are getting tested every day. You're getting those, the COVID test. You guys are keeping up with that protocol. And I never even realized that, if the NBA is getting tested 3 times a day, other leagues have to be testing at least once a day.
Yeah, so we're getting tested. Well, in Germany, we were getting tested before every game. So we played twice a week, typically just to make up for lost time, because even though we had all these, so the protocol wasn't in place when we first started the season. It was just everyone be mindful of where they are, and no one really got tested unless you started to show symptoms. And then we were the first team that played this. We went to travel to this team to play our very first conference game, and we all got COVID. 10 out of 11 players tested positive. I was the only one that didn't test positive because my dumbass was in America, and I got it in America before I came. So I still had the antibodies going on. So I was the only one that didn't test positive. And yeah, so we were stuck in the house from October 30th to November 16th.
Okay.
Could not leave. That's roughly 2-3 weeks. And then we came back out, and we had about a month of no playing until we got 2-week grace period basically to get back in shape.
Okay.
So then after that moment, all the captains of all the teams created a group chat in the German league, and they were like, hey, we don't think this is okay because other teams started to have COVID symptoms. And so we're going to push for the DBBL to test every single game. So then they went to a Zoom meeting with the DBBL people, the president, and requested this, and then they obliged. So that's why there's testing in Germany now.
That's crazy. And going into, I have a daughter, so I'm super, very, very in tune to the women's game. And I'm she loves basketball, which is great. She's only 8 years old, but she loves basketball. So that's something that it's obviously huge for me. But when I look at her, and I'm just and I look at how women's basketball is growing, but things like COVID I don't want them to slow it down. So our teams having struggles in Europe with COVID, our teams shutting down, our teams staying put, our teams having to shift what the resources, bring on less talent to kind of stay afloat. Yeah.
I know in Germany, all the teams have stayed pretty solid. In Switzerland, I've heard of one team going down, but I know that teams don't have the same budget. So the market value, my agent told me when I was transferring, is about I want to say $700 to $1,000 less right now, because players are desperate to find jobs, the ones that are still in America, still at home, wherever they may be. And they're accepting jobs for way less money, which is driving the price down. So and there's not that many jobs out there. So it's kind of a weird situation. But in Belgium, for instance, a team that I played for last season, they let go of all their imports because I don't think they could pay them anymore due to COVID. So there are teams that are releasing all their Americans just they can't afford them.
That's crazy. And I think that we've talked about how overseas is taking more of the brunt
Yeah.
more of the brunt of this whole entire thing, because just the building of the brand, the building of the female basketball brand is getting there, but you know, you don't want to take a hit like this. So that's something that I worry about. But I mean, I look at how overseas basketball is going in the men's game too, and it's definitely, I hear those same stories. Guys teams taking hits. Do you guys have a team that you kind of like, you know, do you have a men's team that's, you know, you share facilities with, that you guys have similar town, you share a town with?
Mm-hmm. We had, where I was in Germany, we shared it with a third league men's team, but the rule in Germany was that all amateur play stopped. So then unfortunately, they were still given gym time at like 8 a.m. to come shoot, but they were not allowed to play. So I don't really have any experience with, you know, actual professional guys coming in and like first league, second league type of stuff.
And it's crazy because I know I played in some places that have high level men's teams, high level women's teams. I played in places that had a really good women's team, and like the men's team was shitty. So like it's funny because you talk about the divisions and the different you know, levels.
Yeah.
But like you can have a high level women's team and a low level guys team. And I think that's awesome because I like I said, I'm like super, like I've become very, very into women's basketball just through my daughter, and I'm like rooting hard. So I love when like guys have to kind of eat shit to be like, listen, you're not in charge. Like you are not the shit in this town. Like deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. They're nice dudes, but yeah, we definitely we take home a little bit more money than them. So.
So we're talking with Klara Bradshaw. Obviously, the one thing that's super cool too that I see in your profile and things, you talk about advocating for like tall women, which is super cool to me. I'm 6'10", so I get like the tall shit everywhere I go. I can't walk out of into any kind of convenience store or grocery store without people staring at me like I'm a crazy person. So I know you have that strong, it's like that strong confidence in like being 6'6" and be like, this is who I am. This is awesome. And that's like super cool. And like for just, not just like tall people, but like all people, I'm like, that's so empowering. Like even for me, like if you ever read my book, I have like very little confidence in myself. So like those things where you kind of see like this confident person, you're like, oh shit, that's awesome. So that's very empowering. What was it like, you know, being that 6'6" and growing so quickly and being a female? Was that a tough situation?
I mean, that was definitely chaotic. Growing up so quickly, I was that, you know, you talk to different tall people, and some, they kind of hit a growth spurt all at once, and then some just kind of start out tall and then they just keep going. And I was the type that I started out tall, and I was taller than some of my kindergarten teachers when I don't even know how old I was, but I hit 6 foot in 6th grade. So I was about 12 years old, completely incapable of doing anything athletic, or my hand-eye coordination was horrible. I mean, I have scars on my elbows from falling so many times. I was just could not stay on my own 2 feet whatsoever. So my parents decided that I was not allowed to play sports when I was growing, because I was just growing so quickly. And they were scared that I was going to hurt myself, which I probably would. So I played golf and tennis, and I was horrible at both of those things. I never passed beginner level of tennis, not even a chance. I was like the veteran beginner level. So I was welcoming in the kids to the beginner level, and I was like, I don't know, 7, 8. And so I was like, come on, like, I'm going to show you what drills we do. And my sisters, who were 4 or 6 years younger than me, are in the advanced level, you know, MVPs and stuff like that. But yeah, I didn't start basketball until I was 13, and that kind of helped my confidence. But I think what really did it was just being around other tall women. As an athlete, you know, there's always going to be centers, post players on every team that you go against, and just meeting those girls after games, or doing research, looking at their Instagrams, and you're just seeing that the same type of, oh, I'm tall and I don't really like to show it type of stereotype for females, like I don't want to be tall type of awkwardness was there. So I just didn't want to have that portrayed on my own profile and my own, like I wanted to exude that you can be confident, you can be a tall woman and like own it and be successful in things that you do.
Fuck yeah. Tall is awesome. Like tall is like, there's nothing. And it's so funny because you describing it, like even as a kid, it's fucking hard. Like it is hard being tall when you're that young. But like now it's like my favorite thing. Like I feel like the confidence grows as you get older and you kind of get, like you said, like more confident within yourself. You meet more people and then you find that people like always look at you and they're just like, I wish I could. And I wish I was you. I wish I was you. I wish I had your height. And that became like a big thing where I was just like, oh yeah, like, dude, this is great. Like I love being tall. And it was just so cool because that's like that confidence I think that tall people have to be like, dude, like you guys wish that you were like awesome like us. And I love, that's like the tall motto right there. Mm-hmm. Right,
yeah,
John?
Come from the short people out there. Yeah.
I was going to say,
I'll take another inch.
My screen is split. So it's like Klara and me on one side and you two on the other side. I'm like the fucking short sides
maybe I need to like
just
sit up in my chair or something. I don't know, man.
I need a step stool to get to the top cabinet in my kitchen.
I was just wondering that, Michaela. I was like, how tall are you, girl?
I'm 5'5".
5'5".
And the other, like, I'm like, it sounds average, but it's not. Like I have very short legs. Like I have very little legs. And so I can't walk fast. Like if I'm walking with my friends, I'm like, you need to slow down. Okay. Cause I have like too much, but no, I think Claire, what you're talking about as far as like being tall, like female beauty standards nowadays, and men have handsome standards, that they have to meet up to too with like the GQ guys and stuff. But I think it's really important that you show, like you should be confident with what you have and who you are. And good role model for younger girls, because we all remember puberty, boy or girl, and that stuff was not fun for anyone.
Not at all.
Yeah. Puberty must be, it's like, oh, it's so fucking awkward. Like, it's just like, you're taking a human and just like growing them. Everything's changing. And it's just like, here, go to school and be around girls, boys, and everyone's going to make fun of you every day. And you're like, if someone like had a game show like this, people would be like, I'm not doing that. That sounds horrible. But like, that's life for every single human being. It's crazy. But going back to tall people, enough of this small people talk. So like the tall, I just think, I look at it, like Michaela said, I look at it as like such a role model for, my daughter. There's times when she's, you have these standards of society and you're just like, girls shouldn't be taller than boys. And she's like taller, like the tallest kid in her class.
Yeah.
And I just like, she's just like always tries to like slunch over, which is what I did. I was always like hunched over and trying to like be small. My friends are like 5'7". I'm just like, hey guys. And they're like, so you always wanted to fit in. And now it's like nice to kind of be like, let's like live. You don't like you are going to be the one that people are going to want to be. Like, don't worry about fitting in with all like the, everyone else. Like you be the superstar. So I think that's super cool. Yeah. And that's awesome. All right. So kind of, wow. We took a real, there's a lot of, we're getting real deep here, John.
Listen, we can have fun, but we can be serious too.
Yeah. we gotta throw some jokes out there or something. Like everyone's listening to the podcast, like say something funny, and we're just like, So going back into kind of overseas basketball, and and we'll kind of jump off the being 6'6", and what do you see? Because when you were playing, you played college basketball. What do you see the differences between, being a tall female in America and being a tall female in overseas in terms of playing wise? Is the game, because I know when we always talk about the guys game overseas is more old school. It's more get the ball inside. game here has become evolved. It's more run and gun. The big guys don't really have as much of a say. So what's it like overseas in terms of the female aspect of getting the ball inside? Is it run and gun, or is it more like, let me go to work?
Yeah. So I mean, I think it depends on what they can get, but I think that it's about the same for the female side as well. Like in college, they want these hybrid post player types, if they want a post player, so that they can run the ball down and kind of have that quick transition game or 5-guard type of thing. So there's definitely more opportunities, I feel, for the taller, more traditional post player overseas, because there are teams, coaches here. It's not like the type of coaches you have in college, like I don't know how to really describe it, the perfect college coach that has to be media presentable and all this stuff. You don't have that overseas. These coaches are just like, they look ridiculous half the time. They like roll out of bed, like they just are different. They're a different breed of people. They know basketball, but they're not like cut and dry, like, oh, this is my college coach and it's all perfect and whatever. And so different coaches want different things, and a lot of them are traditional, so that they want that big player. One of the biggest things they look for is a European 5 player, because it's hard to come by that, has this European passport that can be big and kind of protect the paint.
That's awesome. So you're a diamond in the rough. Like they're like, you are, like, everyone's just like, oh, we need a Klara. Like, we need a Klara Bradshaw.
Well, I'm sure that they think that, and then they're like, oh, well, she's not like, they always think, oh, she's going to be like a bruiser type of post player. And I'm like, nah, I'm not exactly like this strong, like trying to bully you down low. I'm a protect the space.
Yeah.
I'm a rim protector, but I'm not some like beefy, I don't know what I'm doing. I have a nice shot. I like to shoot as well. So
same, this is, I feel like, this is like, we need to start a group of people, like-minded people, because it's the same thing. I feel like when you were playing, like I'm 6'10", so even at the time when I played like the 2000s, that was what they wanted, because Shaq was still a big thing. They're like, go in there and like go through people. I'm like, I'm 6'10", but I weigh like 225 pounds. Like, dude, like, what do you expect of me? I'm going to shoot the ball. I'm going to go by. I'm going to use my quickness, get by people. But that's like crazy. It still seems like that's that kind of like old school mentality, like go through them, like I remember getting that in Europe, like just go through them. And I'd be like, oh my God, dude, just let me do my thing. Like,
heard that line so many times, to go through them. I'm like, what do you mean go through them? They're not invisible. I don't know what to tell you. It's a body. It stops me from going. It's physics.
That's like so true. Go through them. And I think that's just like something they heard on TV one time, on like American TV. And they're like, oh, I say go through them. And you're just like, dude, what the fuck?
The accent was on point, literally.
It's I've heard it many, many times. I feel like my accents have gotten like a lot better. Like I can do the Eastern European one is like definitely something that I've gotten better at, just from making fun of my coaches and teammates.
I definitely smell like a caption coming up, like where we got to have you do the different accents. We had, what's his name from Australia on last week?
Oh, yeah.
And all the different accents.
Yeah. My Australian accent's not that good. I was there for a year, but like, it's just not, like I said, my New Zealand one is pretty good, but like my Australian one, there's like so many different like dialects. It's like almost like a foreign person coming to America and being like do a Texas accent, do a Mississippi accent, do a New Jersey accent. Like there's just do Boston. You're like, what the fuck? So it's too much. So Klara, talk to us about your college experience. I know you had some ups and downs, especially, you start off and end up transferring, going to SMU. So take us through your college experience and some of the ups and downs you faced, being, player going 6'6" player going into college.
Yeah. So I started off high school, ending high school was really exciting. All these offers coming in, and I got most of the Big 12 offered me. I had like 32, I think, full ride offers. So I was really excited, thinking, okay, I'm really going to do something, like you're coming off of this adrenaline, this momentum. And then that red carpet kind of is taken away after all your visits and all that stuff. Like we all have experienced that, but and I kind of settled into, okay, this is what it's really going to be like. You know, it's a grind. You have to really you have to grind it out your freshman year to kind of prove yourself. And I was lucky. I had a good first coach who I signed with, and we had a really good bond. And I don't know, my style fit what he wanted to do. So that worked, but then he ended up, he left to go coach at Kansas State, which was in conference. And we got our AD came 10 minutes before we got on the bus to tell us, hey, your coach has resigned. He's not coming with you. This was our first post-conference appearance. It was a WNIT. We're flying to Colorado. So 10 minutes before we get on the bus to go to the private airport to go, we got the information that our coach wasn't coming with us. So that was my first kind of shock into what was coming for the rest of my college career. So I decided to stay after he left. We lost that game, of course, came back home, decided to stay for my sophomore year, and I had a post player come in as a coach. So I was really excited. She played in the WNBA. She was 6'3", 6'4", something like that. So I was like, okay, we're going to get along great. This is going to be a good fit. And she kind of wanted to run small ball with the people that were left over from my first year. And that's what we kind of called it. You know, you're kind of dubbed as the leftovers when you get a new coach coming in. They want to bring in their own people every time. It's a thing. They need to prove themselves that they can coach, they can recruit. So they're just kind of waiting for that first round of recruits to come in and kind of trickle out the people that they didn't really recruit themselves. So that started to happen. I didn't play very much at all after that because she wanted to run 5 guards, fast transition game. So we had 6'6", 6'4", 6'2" on the bench every game. And then I decided to transfer because I was like, I love TCU. I love, being in the Big 12, but that's not what I came to do. That's not what I signed to do. I didn't go to TCU was really struggling at that time for women's basketball. So I was like, I'm coming somewhere to get a great education, but also to play, because I didn't go to a shitty athletic school just to lose games and then not play. So I thought at the time that going to SMU was going to be a good decision. But that coach that recruited me to go there when I transferred, I should have seen this one coming, but I didn't. So she had a 7-23 season, 2 seasons before I came. And then I came, I redshirted, and they kind of pushed her to retire at that time because she just wasn't performing. So she retired. But after that, then my 4th coach came in, and he was a first-time head coach. He coached as an assistant at University of Texas and then at Georgia, and he's kind of got these big schools behind him, these big names, and he was a professional player and played in the NBA and all this stuff. And so he came in and kind of had that ego to follow, and he just was not he was just, some people are great players, but they're not meant to coach.
Yep.
And I truly believe that that's what happened there. He divided us, and it was just a really bad basketball environment that affected everybody. And that's kind of why I went forward with, after I left, I went overseas, and I was still dealing with the repercussions of those feelings that I had. And do I really is basketball worth it if this is what it makes me feel like every day? And, just a lot of self-doubt, and all because of that bad environment that we were in. So I decided to write about it because that's what I like to do. And it got a lot of traction, went kind of viral. TMZ picked it up, ESPN picked it up, and then the Dallas Morning News wrote about it. And the school backed him up. The AD wrote a letter. The AD wrote a letter saying we are going to stand behind our coach, and the president of SMU wrote a letter saying, I'm going to stand behind our athletic director.
Wow.
In light of the recent things that have been said. So they basically just said, yeah, we're not believing your story, Klara. So sorry.
That is I mean, that's like crazy, and
Yeah.
you know, we won't make you get into and like rehash old wounds, but like just thinking about like, and we, you know, we can post links to your blog and stuff so people can read about it, exactly what happened. But it's insane to think that a university would back someone and be like, oh, they're cool. Like, this is all good. Like, after an event like that, that's like fucking bonkers. And I didn't know the end story of that story. I didn't know that they actually backed him.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
So they backed him up, and they also, he's still there, he's still coaching, and the same journalist that wrote my story for the Dallas Morning News reached out, and he's like, hey, I've got a lot of intel that the same stuff is going on. So if you kind of look at the transfers and the people that have left, and just there have been a lot of there's just been a lot of movement with SMU women's basketball. And actually this season they decided to stop playing due to COVID reasons. But the players, what I've heard, it's hearsay, I guess, because it hasn't been proven, because the players are scared to come out, is that they asked the AD they don't want to play for this coach anymore because he's kind of doing that same bad environment and all that kind of stuff. So they said, hey, we don't want to play for him anymore. And they're like, well, your only option is to say that you would like to stop due to COVID. So that's what they came up with. And so their season has ended, and they're kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place type of thing. So
it's crazy. I mean, just thinking about, I always think it's tough to if there was like some kind of issue where a man comes into a women's locker room and starts, you know, really being like demanding and not really taking into account like anyone's like the thought process as to it, and just like really creating a toxic environment. And is it like something that is almost like we always talk about, like the in the news now, toxic masculinity and all these things, and kind of like, is it that toxic masculinity that like a guy can just go in and be like, I control this, you're going to shut the fuck up and listen to me, and like creates this environment of just like horror? Because I know, like, I've worked with girls basketball before, and, you know, train a lot of female players. So I know, like, it's crazy. You can't go in there with this like attitude that you're like better than everyone, and you're just going to like, everyone's just going to bow down to you.
Correct. Yeah. There's got to be just a little more sensitivity that you have. Like, I understand, you know, different coaches have different methods on how they want to come out to their players and how they want to, you know, proceed as the season goes on. And if you want to be that hard ass coach, that's fine. But if you're going to be a male coming into a female environment, you have to just have a little more sensitivity and understand that there are things that you're not going to understand because you're not a female. Like, you just have to kind of come in like,
totally right,
humble yourself a little bit and say, yes, I am good at what I do. Like, I am a professional player, whatever I did, but I'm not a female. So I'm going to reel in the reins a little bit and let's figure this out together type of thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just like, even, you know, having a man or like a boy or a girl, like a child, you can just be like, there's so many things. Like, I'm not going to sit there and like, you can like just grab your, and this is going to sound hard, but John, back me up on this. So like, if you yoke up your boy, like, and be like, don't do that again. Like, that's, and I don't want to like, Michaela, what's like the I don't want anyone to come and be like, are you abusing children? No. All I'm saying is,
No.
like, you can like yoke up like a little boy and just like grab him by the collar and be like, don't do that again. I would never do that to Olivia. Like, I would just be like, I wouldn't like grab, it's like a different thing. Like, you just kind of, you have to like.
Well, there's actual studies like that men and women communicate different, like biologically, like in their brain, they actually have different communication methods. Women talk to heal. They like to talk things out. They talk to have an actual conversation. And men communicate, unfortunately, as like a status symbol to show like who's the big guy in the room. And you know,
thing, I guess, right? Like, like the what do you call the you know, Neolithic, like, man, like the you know, like the instincts, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
The alpha dog kind of thing. I get that.
Yeah. So, you know, it depends on the parents too, like what you do for a living, you know, and how you communicate with your kids. Like my dad's a correctional officer, so I did get yoked up by my collar and like, you're not going to do that. And I think it made me a tough girl because I was just like, oh, I'm not scared of you. My dad works with inmates. Try me, you know what I mean?
Seriously.
But it's different for everyone, and it's important, you know, that dudes get to talk about their feelings, to talk about them, and not just be like, I'm feeling this way, don't talk to me, you know. But I could see how for Klara that's really hard. Like a guy comes into your guys' environment and just is like, I'm laying down the law now, and he may not understand the connections that you've made with your teammates, like on the court and inside the court. And
Yeah.
it's coming into your territory regardless. I mean, whoever's in charge, that's still, you've earned that space there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
That's crazy. But yeah, but I love, Klara, like what you've done, the articles you've written, the blogs you've written, just about like being an advocate for these things and like mentality, which is something that a lot of people just brush over when you talk about athletes. I know we did the Hold for One today where we talked about, you know, there's a facility in France was destroyed, not destroyed, but like fans attacked and like threw shit because the team lost a bunch in a row. And it's like, people don't understand like the mentality of an athlete. Like there's a lot of shit that you're dealing with at all times. Yeah. And to have these external forces like really put this pressure on you and then start like, you know, throwing things that are like deeply personal and deeply upsetting to you. It's crazy. So I think you've done a great job of advocating for the mental aspects of athletes. And that's something that when just reading your stuff, I look at as like, this is great. And you have a great voice and you're doing a great job of being that person that people can look at with the mentality of being a professional athlete and being a college athlete and dealing with these factors that are really, really, you know, hard. People don't understand that side of basketball.
No, they don't. No one ever talks about the ins and outs of what's really required, not just physically, but the mental side, like day-to-day operations, what you have to provide to do your job, you know?
Yeah. I always said, like, it's crazy. And, like, kind of getting into the fans are freaking nuts because the fans go and, like, tear up this whole entire place in France and in Marseille. I, like, said it right today. I think it's, like, Marseille.
Fact checker.
Yeah. So, Michaela, you can do my accent when you edit it and be like, but that's like crazy. Like fans have a lot of power and people don't understand. Like I've had, you know, situations where we brought down to a dinner and like the fans are just like, you're going to win this game. Like we lost one game the entire time there. They're going to like, you guys are going to win this game or else. And there's like, you know, holding up things and there's guns and knives and you're like, what the fuck, dude? Like I'm here to play basketball. Like, why am I even involved in you? Like go away. But that's crazy.
We talk about, you know, you and me being from Philly, you know, like that kind of thing. Like that's the capital of sports hostility, you know.
And I couldn't imagine, like we're Eagles fans. Like, Klara, are you at like a Dallas? Because you're from like the Texas area. Are you like a fan of like Texas sports?
It's
like,
hard for me.
Like California.
It's hard for me to say I'm like a Cowboys fan because just the stigma behind being a Cowboys fan. But I'll always root for Dallas teams, like love the Dallas Mavericks. But for football, I'm just going to be Switzerland here. I'm neutral to everything.
Good call.
Yeah, it's great. Great call. Yeah. And so being from, you know, the Texas, like what is your stigma of Philadelphia fans?
Well, I don't have that much experience with football fans. All I know is my college friend went playing there. His nickname's Big V. Vitae? I don't know how to really pronounce it.
Vitae, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. It's really hard to say his first name. But
yeah.
When we were drinking, I remember pregame, we would always be like, hello, trying to say
that guy.
So he hated us for that, but he's a really nice dude. But yeah, that's all I got for Philadelphia. That's my only information I have.
Well, don't hold it against Kevin. We were on our show last week. Kevin was talking about him and his brother when the Phillies won the 2008 World Series, everyone's like mobbing the streets and knocking over the big flower pots. And there's like Kev and his brother, 6'11", like trying to put the friggin' flower pot back up.
Yeah, man.
And I haven't been able to get that visual out of my head this week, Kev. I'm like just trying to put that fucking flower pot back up.
Listen, the world.
That was a good fan.
Yeah, seriously. People will try to destroy shit, and I'm just like, nope. We're better than that. Like, that's my motto. Like, we're better than that, guys. We can do better.
Claire, have you heard the Santa story about Philly fans?
Fucking throwing. That's all nonsense.
Tell me.
she was telling me. I don't know.
No, they
you guys.
Philadelphia fans of throwing snowballs at Santa, which they did, but it was because the Santa was like me dressed in like a red sweatshirt and like with like a spray painted beard, and they're like, "What is this?" And they were like, "Boo!" And they're like, "You booed Santa," and we're like, "Shut up." National media.
It comes up on like every time people talk about Philly fans about that. It's the whole Santa thing. And then someone threw like a battery. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, people say that, and I'm like, I wasn't even alive. They say that to me out here. I'm like,
I wasn't alive. I'm 4 years old. Like, I wasn't alive. They're like, "Oh, you throw snowballs at Santa." I'm like, dude, that was like in the 70s. Like,
then people take it to the next step, and they want to be like that nasty Philly fan. So then they try and one up. It gets crazy, man. I don't know. Like I've been to like one Eagles game. It's tough. Phillies games, that's not so bad. People are kind of like, we're all here to have fun. But Eagles games, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a different environment. All right, so Klara, your craziest, because I know when I like think about overseas basketball, there's a lot of crazy shit that happens that people don't really talk about or know about. Like we talked about the fans and stuff. What's your craziest, memory overseas? Do you have anything where you're just like, where the fuck am I? Like, how did this just happen? Like, do you have anything that was like, yikes, like I'm not in, this is not normal?
Yeah, wait till you read Kevin's book.
Oh my God.
Well, I'll say I had a really interesting first year. So I was in East Germany, and East Germany kind of hasn't really come to the year 2020 or whatever year that was, 2018. So they're a little harder in their ways. We had a festival in our city, and you can look this up. It the festival happened, and Germany, has open borders, or did at the time, and so they had a lot of immigrants, and the immigrants ended up getting some woman was stabbed, and she was a German woman. So basically, this happened on a Friday night, and the next day, Germans started to protest. They had riots, and you can literally, the city I was in was called Chemnitz, and they had to involve police SWAT teams. Everything was like militarized in the city that we were in, and they protested every single Friday night. They had times. It's funny because the Germans are angry, but then they still protest within their time frames that they're given.
Wrap it up.
Exactly. So we had lockdown. We had to get we had to go together to practice. So basically they were protesting anyone that wasn't German. So the first day after that stabbing happened, they were pushing and kicking people in the street that didn't look like a German. So this stereotypical, blondish hair or whatever German look that you have. And I had, American teammates.
Yeah.
So we all had to we had bikes. We didn't have our cars at that time. So this was my first year, and we're all biking in a group. We're like a biking gang to a practice because we're scared of the crowds that are like looming around the corners. And I was like, well, you guys aren't going anywhere without us, because we're gonna put the Europeans on the outside. You guys are gonna bike on the inside, and we're gonna get to point B wherever we're going.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's like it's a different world, and it's like crazy that to be involved in things. I know people in like Libya and stuff. Like it's just like you shouldn't go and play basketball and like fear for your life. But I feel like everyone kind of has that one story where you're like, yeah, like I love playing overseas. Did you ever fear for your life? No. Oh yeah, that one time that guy. Like you're always like every overseas player has that story where like, oh shit, yeah, I guess I did. So it's a little crazy.
They literally protested we were a 7th floor apartment, and they were just going down the street, and it was probably like tens of thousands of people. I'm not kidding. And I have it on video, and they're just screaming German flags, like just screaming. And then I remember I was looking and I was filming, and then the SWAT officers pointed their gun with the light to like flashlight to like, stop doing this, close your window. I was like, holy, yep, I'm out. I'm gonna close the blinds. We're not doing this anymore. I just got a gun pointed at me. Nope.
So now going into kind of the it's crazy because we've talked about this on the show before. Like, I know being a male basketball player, playing overseas, playing, in the United States, there's a lot of like groupies that try to like latch on to basketball players. And I always like, you deal with groupies. We've had whole conversations with people about like groupies, but like, I've never talked to a female basketball player about what you go through, because I'm sure that, being on a team and being in the public limelight, like, do you have like dudes and like, groupies who are just kind of like in your shit trying to being like, hey, like when you're at a bar or something? Like it gets nuts, especially like in the NBA. Did you have something like that? Do you guys have like the groupies that try to like just tail you guys around town?
Not as much, but because the teams I played on, only one had like a strong fan base. But in that one, they kind of called us out. They saw us out at a hookah lounge, and they would actually rat us out. Like, I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, it's
horrible.
So they would go and call our sponsors or whatever, and they're like, hey, your players are at the hookah lounge. It's not very productive if they want to like perform. We're like, it's such a double standard. Like, not machines. We have to go and relax, So yeah. And then I never really have groupies for basketball purposes, but for being 6'6", it's like, please.
Yeah.
It's the whole level. It's just an army of people that I just close that door as much as.
Yeah, I can imagine like the tall, it like definitely draws, and it's just it's crazy. So I can't imagine just like what your DMs look like. People just must be just like constantly throwing shit. It's like, it must be crazy. Or you just like, just get the fuck away?
Literally, I just skim. So it just says like the icon up there where it says message request, it just says 99 plus, and then you just kind of scroll quickly, and you see any blue check marks or something, or you have like top requests. So it's people that have more followers will kind of come to the top of that. So then you can kind of filter through, because I have to check in case there's like collaborations or actual people like that are normal that are on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of difficult to try to go through all those, like, can I be a human carpet DMs? So you're just like, no. And you just try to exit. You just try to close out the whole app,
Sorry, that just clicked for me. That's why I laughed. Yeah. I laughed a little late, but it just clicked.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. I had this weird website who like wrote me. This is like recently. Like, I haven't played in 9 years, and like a website wrote me recently when they were like, hey, it was like a large feet thing, and they're like, do you want to? Here's some videos of guys, and they're like fucking they call them unsocking. And there's like dudes sitting there like slowly taking off their shoes and socks, and they're like, are you interested? And I was like, absolutely no. Like, I was like, that's like crazy that they were, because I was just like, dude, I have like real things going on in my life. Like, I can't be have someone like look and be like, holy shit, I know him. Why is he unsocking on this weird website? It's like, it's so creepy to think, like, I can't like imagine. That's nuts. Klara, like, yeah, good thing we emailed you too, because that thing would have been lost in the internet forever.
It's funny because I got an email that same day. So it was your email, and then an email from this man said, are you interested in marriage? And I was like, okay. And it was like some, I don't know, AFB, whatever alphabet name that emailed me. And I was like, oh, okay, so this isn't, just ignore that. But only a couple emails come through like that. Mostly they don't leave Instagram, but
Yeah.
I had to create a whole other email account so that they could just go to that place in case they do find my email. And
Yikes.
yeah.
Klara, I don't envy that part of your life. And I think that's like, I think about just being a professional athlete and like how much you kind of have to deal with that and people just constantly bugging you day in and day out. That's like nuts. So I don't envy that, but it's like super cool to hear your story. It was super nice to talk to you and kind of hear what's going on over obviously in Switzerland right now, what's going on in your life, and just like how you kind of, how you've gone from, a young player to who you are now. So it's really cool to hear your story.
Yeah, it's been fun being here. I'm happy that you guys invited me, and I know just getting to talk to more people. It can, how it is overseas. It can be, and just socialization, especially this season with COVID. You're just kind of you and your teammates, and that's about it. So it's always nice to start talking to somebody.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's nice to have that outlet, and I feel like everyone we talk to is just like, oh fuck, like you're speaking English. Like it's just like, it's a nice, that broken English gets old after a while. And but it was super cool having you on the show, Klara. Like we'll be following your career, and we'll super happy that you were able to come on today.
Well, thank you for having me, for sure.
Awesome. Klara Bradshaw joining us. Thanks, Klara, and we will talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. So Klara Bradshaw joining us. Super cool. That was a real fun interview.
Absolutely. Cool. Some really interesting stories, man.
Now, was she your first female guest?
No, we had Charnay on, but it's crazy because I feel like Charnay I knew. Like I trained Charnay. I knew her since she was like in high school. Like I knew Charnay very well. So I like talking with her. It was like it wasn't like weird. It were like, new or anything like that. It was like very but like this is the first time that I've never met Klara before. So like we just like having a conversation. It's just like you're trying to, figure out how she became who she was. And it's like super cool. Her story is really interesting. And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was good. It's good to have the aspects of womanhood, but not make that the entire story. Like that's not just her story,
Exactly.
She's a person too. And I think it went really well. It's very well spoken.
She is.
Yeah.
She's cool. We'll have to have her back on another time. Just because I was like, there's other things, but I'm looking at the time. I'm like, oh my God, we've gone like an hour. And like thinking about too, like it's like 10 o'clock where she is. So she's just like, even though it's like fun, you're kind of like, all right, I need to go to sleep. So I was like, all right, I want to keep her. But there's like definitely other questions that I had that I wrote down. So I was like, all right, we'll have to get into talking with her again, later on when we're big time. So that was super cool. Huge thanks to Klara Bradshaw for hopping on today. Michaela Hall, John Hunt for hopping on today as well. Talking a little basketball, talking a little overseas, talking a little bit about, women's sports and, being a woman in this day and age and, the craziness that kind of goes with it. So it was a lot of fun. All right. Everyone else, thank you so much for joining us, Overseas Famous, and we'll see you guys next week. Later.
Real friends never hearing from me. Fake friends write the wrong answers on the mirror for me. That's why I pick and choose. I don't get shit confused. I got a small circle. I'm not with different crews. We walk the same path, but got on different shoes. Live in the same building, but we got different views. I got a couple cars I never get to use. Don't like my women single. I like my chicks in twos. And these days, all the girls is down the road. I hit the strip club and all them bitches find a pole. Plus I've been sipping, so this shit is moving kinda slow. Just tell my girl to tell a friend that it's time to go. Now tell me how you love it. You know you at the top and only heaven's right above it. We own. It's young money, motherfucker. If you ain't running with it, run from it, motherfucker. Alright, now somebody show some money in this bitch. And I got my bees with me like some honey in this bitch. You dig? I got my gun in my boot purse and I don't bust back because I shoot first. Meet me on on the fresh train. Yes, I'm in the building, you just on the list of guest names. And all of my riders do not give a X Games. Guns turn you boys into sex change. And I smoke till I got chest pains. And you niggas know I rep my gang like Jesse James. Women are possessive, and they wanna possess Wayne. I've been fly so long I fell asleep on the plane. Skinny pants and some Vans. Call me Triple A, get my advance in advance. Amen. As the world spinning, dance in my hands. Life is a beach, I'm just playing in the sand. Wake up and smell a. You can't see me, but never overlook me. I'm on the paper trail. It ain't